A child loses a tooth. In the modern story, this is harmless, sweet, domestic. A tiny milestone wrapped in cotton placed beneath a pillow and exchanged in the night for a coin. The room is safe, the child sleeps. Something small and benevolent enters, takes the tooth and leaves the reward. But strip away the glitter, the wings and the nursery softness, and the ritual begins to look older. A piece of the child has fallen out. Not hair, not a fingernail, not blood. Bone. The hardest part of the body. A white fragment from the mouth. A little object that belonged to the child, then did not. Something intimate enough to be dangerous. Because in older worlds, things that came from the body were not neutral. Hair could be taken, nails could be used, teeth could be hidden, burned, buried, fed to animals, thrown to the sun, placed under the earth, or kept away from those who might use them. In medieval Europe, people were told to burn children's teeth so that witches could not get them. In parts of Asia and Africa, teeth were thrown upwards, downwards, eastwards, into roofs, fields, rivers and chicken coops, often with a wish for a strong adult tooth to return. In Spanish-speaking worlds, the collector was not a fairy at all, but a mouse. Ratoncito Pérez, the little tooth taker, the rodent physician of the nursery. Elsewhere, a child's tooth might be wrapped in meat and fed to a dog, so the new tooth would grow strong like the animals. In Jamaica, a tooth placed in a tin and shaken was said to keep away the rolling calf. In some reported Australian traditions, the mother eats the child's tooth, carrying the charm back into the body. The Tooth Fairy is not the beginning of the story. She may be the disguise at the end of it. You are listening to Noir Frequency. Tonight we investigate the folklore of baby teeth. The familiar Tooth Fairy story gives us a simple transaction. A tooth goes under the pillow, money appears by morning. The child wakes to proof that losing part of the body can be made into something good. But across the world, the same moment has been handled in many different ways. Some children hide the tooth, some burn it, some bury it, some throw it upward toward the roof, the sky, the sun or the moon. Some throw the upper teeth down and the lower teeth up, as if the direction of the old tooth can guide the direction of the new one. Some give the tooth to a mouse, a crow, a magpie, a dog or another animal whose body is thought to carry the right kind of strength. Some preserve it as a keepsake, some return it to the earth, some send it into water, some guard it from witches, ghosts, birds, neighbours, demons and spirits. These customs are not identical and they should not be forced into one neat universal system. They come from different places, different religions, different family practices, and different levels of documentation. Some are still practiced, some are remembered, some are reported by folklorists, dentists, travellers or local tradition. But again and again, the same fear returns. The child's tooth matters because the child matters, and the tooth is not just waste. It is a fragment with power. This is a children's custom that looks soft on the surface, but underneath carries older questions. Who owns the piece of the body after they leave us? What might happen if the wrong thing finds them? And why, when a child loses a tooth, do so many cultures answer with a ritual? To understand why tooth folklore matters, we have to begin with a simple idea. A thing that comes from the body can remain connected to a person. This idea appears in many magical and folkloric systems. Hair, nail clippings, blood, clothing, footprints, and teeth can all become dangerous because they are not fully separate. They are no longer part of the body, but they still belong to it. This is sometimes called contagious magic. The object touched the body, grew in the body, or came from the body, and therefore it may still carry the person's influence. That is why the body fragments are hidden. Not because they're unpleasant, because they can still be used. In European witchcraft belief, a witch obtaining someone's tooth could be imagined as gaining power over them. In the same broad family of belief, hair and nail clippings had to be disposed of carefully, because they might become material for harm. A tooth, especially a child's tooth, was small enough to steal and personal enough to matter. The modern parent might see a baby tooth as sentimental. The older ritual mind sees a loose connection that needs closing. The child has opened, something has come away. The boundary of the body has been broken. The ritual seals it again. And perhaps that is why the story became gentle. A frightening thing happens to a child when their tooth falls out. The mouth bleeds, the tooth loosens. Something that seemed permanent proves temporary. The body changes without asking permission. The adult world has to explain that. One way to explain it is biology, another way is ritual. Another is a story about a visitor in the night who knows exactly what to do with the thing the child has lost. In medieval and early modern European traditions, one response to the lost tooth was destruction. Burn it, bury it, remove it from circulation. Keep it from witches, keep it from malicious hands. Keep it from a future in which the child might need to search for it beyond death. The burning of baby teeth in England is often linked to two overlapping fears. One was the afterlife, the idea that the child might be forced to search for their lost teeth after death if they were not properly disposed of. The other was witchcraft, the fear that if a witch obtains the tooth, she might gain power over the person it came from. Both fears make the tooth more than an object. It is a liability, a loose piece of the child that has to be dealt with. Burial carries a different tone, but not necessarily a softer one. To bury the tooth is to remove it from human reach and return it to the earth. The ground receives it, contains it, and perhaps helps the new tooth grow. In some reported traditions, the lost tooth becomes almost seed-like, placed below so that something new can rise. That image is important. The old tooth dies into the earth. The new tooth rises from the child. Loss becomes planting. This is not the tooth fairy yet. There are no wings, no glitter, no organised nightly economy of coins. But the structure is already there. Something is taken, something is hoped for in return. Protection, growth, straight teeth, strong teeth. A safe passage from one stage of childhood to the next. The idea of paying for teeth appears in older northern traditions too. In Norse and Viking-related lore, children's teeth and other objects associated with children were said to bring luck, and warriors were reported to have worn children's teeth as charms. The details are difficult to separate from later retellings, but the motif is clear enough to matter. The child's tooth is not worthless. It can be paid for, it can be worn, it can be carried into danger. That connection makes the modern coin under the pillow more interesting. Maybe the coin is not only a reward, maybe it is a purchase, a payment for the fragment, a harmless replacement for an older, more serious exchange. In many modern households, the tooth fairy is presented as benevolent, but the exchange still has odd features. The visitor comes at night, the child is asleep, the tooth is removed from the bed, a token is left to mark the transaction. It is polite because the story says it's polite, but without the story, the scene is still strange. The tooth is valuable enough to be collected. The visitor wants it, and nobody quite explains why. In Spanish-speaking traditions, the tooth collector is often not a fairy, it is a mouse. Ratoncito Pérez, also called Pérez, is the little mouse who comes for children's lost teeth, and leaves money or gifts behind. In Spanish and Latin American worlds, he is as familiar as the tooth fairy is in English-speaking countries. The literary version of Ratoncito Pérez was popularized in the late 19th century by Luis Coloma, who wrote a story for the young King Alfonso XIII after the child lost a tooth, but the mouse was not created out of nothing. It drew from older oral traditions in which mice and teeth were already connected. Why a mouse? The simple answer is that mice have remarkable teeth. Sharp, hard, constantly growing, always gnawing. In several traditions, giving a child's tooth to a mouse or rodent is linked to the hope that the new tooth will grow strong like the animal's. That is sympathetic logic. The mouse has good teeth, the child needs good teeth. Give the tooth to the mouse and ask the mouse to return the quality. France has Le Petite Souris, the little mouse. Italy has Topino, another little mouse figure. Mouse and rat collectors also appear named or unnamed in a range of reported traditions beyond Europe. The fairy may dominate the English-speaking imagination, but globally the mouse may be the more logical figure. A fairy is magical, a mouse is dental, and there is something faintly predatory in that logic. The mouse does not simply bless the tooth, it eats, gnaws, takes and replaces. It is small enough to enter the house without being seen. It works at night, it knows the spaces under floors and behind walls. The mouse is not only cute, it is the thing already living close enough to the human world, already moving through the dark, already associated with the mouth, the bite, and the secret removal of small things. Across parts of Asia, Africa, the Pacific and elsewhere, the lost tooth is not hidden under a pillow at all. It is thrown, sometimes onto the roof, sometimes towards the sun, sometimes into the earth, sometimes into water, fields, gardens, chicken coops, or spaces connected to home and household. The roof is especially important. In parts of Africa and Asia, children have been reported to throw teeth onto the roof of the house. Sometimes this is to hide the tooth from harmful people or forces. Sometimes the child recites a phrase asking an animal such as a crow or a magpie to bring a new tooth in exchange. The roof is neither outside nor inside, it's the boundary of the home. To throw a tooth there is to place it above reach, but still within the protective field of the house. In East Asian customs, the direction of the throw can follow the direction of the tooth grown. In Japan, a lower tooth may be thrown upwards, while an upper tooth is thrown downward. The idea is practical and magical at once. The new tooth should grow straight, in the right direction, into the right place. In China and Korea, related up and down customs are also reported, though details differ by region and family. The logic is not the same everywhere, but the movement keeps returning. The tooth leaves the child and is sent into the world with instructions. Grow straight, grow strong, come back properly. That is what makes the tooth ritual so strange and so human. The adult cannot make the new tooth grow correctly, so the adult gives the child an action. Throw it upward, bury it, hide it. Ask the animal, ask the sun. The ritual does not control the body, but it gives fear somewhere to go. In parts of the Middle East and North Africa, children are reported to throw lost teeth towards the sun or the sky, asking for a bright, strong adult tooth in return. The sun is obvious and powerful. It rises, it returns, it brings light, it marks renewal. To throw the tooth towards it is to send the old thing towards the force that makes the day begin again. Among some Pueblo traditions in North America, reported practices involve the east, sunrise, cornmeal, and a prayer for the new tooth. Again, the exact ritual belongs to its own culture and should not be flattened into a global pattern, but the broad symbolism is relevant. The lost tooth is placed in relation to the mourning. The old tooth leaves, the new is asked to rise. In Zambia, one reported Bemba custom involves a piece of charcoal and a tooth. The charcoal goes west with the setting sun, and the tooth goes east with the rising sun, accompanied by words asking that the new tooth rise with the dawn. That image is almost too perfect. Darkness goes one way, the tooth goes the other. A child's mouth becomes part of the day's movement across the sky. Whether the ritual is exact, regional, or remembered in fragments, the meaning is powerful enough for this episode. The tooth is not only thrown away, it is sent into a cosmology. Not all tooth customs are about asking for strength. Some are about keeping danger away. In several reported traditions, teeth are hidden because special parts of the body must not be found by untrustworthy people, animals, spirits, or forces. This puts teeth in the same dark category as hair and nails, small things with personal power. Some Nepalese traditions are described as burying the tooth to hide it from birds. Other customs involve hiding the tooth under floors, in walls, near plants or in the earth. In Malaysia, Tajikistan, Benin, Nepal and other places, burial is reported as a way of returning the tooth to the ground or removing it from danger. In Taiwan, some reported customs place the tooth in a hole in the wall. In the Philippines, children may hide the tooth in a special place and make a wish, returning later to see if it remains. A hidden tooth is not gone, it is guarded. The modern fairy ritual hides the tooth too, but in a gentler way, under the pillow, inside the intimate boundary of the bed, close to the sleeping child's head. Then by morning it has vanished. The story says this is safe because the visitor is safe. Older customs are less certain. They do not always trust the visitor, they trust disposal. Some of the most striking tooth customs involve animals not as collectors, but as recipients. In Mongolia, children's teeth have been reported as wrapped in meat or fat and fed to a dog. Similar animal offering customs appear in other regions, involving dogs, rodents, birds, or other animals. The wish is often that the new tooth will carry the strength of the animal's teeth. There is a rough practical beauty in this. The dog has strong teeth, the child needs strong teeth, the tooth is fed to the dog, and the quality is asked to transfer. This is not a metaphor in the soft modern sense, it is exchange, bone for bite. The mouse version is the same logic made domestic and narrative. A mouse does not only take the tooth because it is whimsical, it takes the tooth because the mouse is a specialist in teeth. Its teeth never stop growing. It gnaws through walls, grain, wood, paper, and the hidden edges of the house. The rodent is an expert, a little physician with a criminal's timing. The Tooth Fairy is not the only global figure. The mouse, the dog, the bird, the sun, the roof, and the wall all take turns. Each receives the tooth. Each is asked for something in return. Some tooth customs are stranger than a coin, stranger than a mouse, and harder to smooth into bedtime charm. In Jamaica, one reported practice places a lost tooth in a tin can and shakes it to keep away the rolling calf, a frightening creature from Jamaican folklore. The tooth becomes a noisemaker, a ward, a small alarm against something that might come near the child. In some reported Australian Aboriginal traditions, a mother crushes the child's tooth, places it in meat and eats it, expressing the wish that the child's permanent teeth will be strong. This is not the fairy taking the tooth away, it is the family body taking the tooth back in. This may sound shocking to modern ears, but within the ritual logic it is not senseless. The tooth came from the child, it is returned through the mother. The body fragment does not wander, it is gathered into kinship, food, strength, and protection. In New Guinea, reported traditions include burying teeth with an ancestor. Among Navajo, Yellowknife Dene, and other indigenous traditions noted in comparative studies, teeth may be placed with plants or in significant natural locations. Among some Pueblo traditions, the tooth is linked to sunrise and cornmeal. These shouldn't be treated as interchangeable, they're not one custom in different costumes. But they all show a broader truth. The tooth is too meaningful to simply discard. It must be placed with an animal, with the earth, with an ancestor, with dawn, with the household, with the mother, or with the dead. The sanitized tooth fairy turns this into a bedtime economy. But the older logic is not economic first, it is protective. The modern tooth fairy, as widely known in the United States and Britain, is relatively recent compared with the older tooth customs around her. The fairy figure becomes especially visible in the 20th century, rising in popularity after the Second World War, when childhood was increasingly treated as a protected and celebrated stage of life. This matters because the tooth fairy is not ancient in her current form. The ritual is ancient in feeling. The fairy is the new costume. Modern childhood softened the event. A tooth placed under a pillow became an opportunity for surprise, reward, reassurance, and family theatre. Special pillows, keepsake boxes, commemorative coins, dentist office posters, children's books, and official mint products helped make the tooth fairy part of a cheerful cultural industry. But the structure did not disappear. A body fragment is placed in a liminal space. A night visitor removes it. A token appears. The child wakes changed. That is the same old transaction, cleaned and polished. The fear is hidden but not gone. The child still loses part of the body. The adult still invents a ritual. The object still vanishes. The exchange still marks passage. Children ask the question adults often avoid. What does the tooth fairy do with all the teeth? Some modern answers are whimsical. She builds castles, she makes stars, she grinds them into fairy dust. She collects them as proof of growing up. But beneath the joke is the older unease. Someone is collecting children's teeth. That is why the global traditions are so revealing. They do not always hide the strangeness of the transaction. They show the mechanism. The witch must not get the tooth. The mouse must take the tooth. The dog must eat the tooth. The roof must conceal the tooth. The ancestor must keep the tooth. The fairy's only one answer to the question, and perhaps the safest one. Because a fairy needs no appetite, no teeth of their own, no grave, no witchcraft, no animal exchange. She only needs wings and a coin. The modern myth does not explain that ritual, it distracts from it. And yet that distraction may be kind. Children do not need the full weight of the old fear. They need to know that the blood in the sink is normal, that the loose tooth is not the body coming apart, that what falls out will be replaced, that the night can take something and give something back. The fairy is not false because she's gentle. She's gentle because the truth underneath is frightening. So the Tooth Fairy is almost the least strange part of this story. She is familiar because she has been softened. She arrives politely, pays for what she takes, and leaves before morning. The child wakes with a coin, the parent smiles, and the little gap in the mouth becomes a milestone instead of a wound. But the older customs do not let us forget what has actually happened. A piece of the child has come away. The tooth has crossed a boundary. It is no longer part of the body, but it is not ordinary rubbish either. It is too personal to leave lying around, too intimate to discard without a thought, and too charged with hope to be treated as meaningless. That is what links the burning hearth, a roof tile, the mouse hole, the dog's mouth, the mother's hands, and the quiet space under the pillow. They are not just different answers to the same childhood problem. They are different ways of handling a vulnerable fragment. Some traditions destroy the tooth so that no one can use it. Some hide it where harmful forces cannot reach it. Some feed it to an animal, asking strength to return through the body of something tougher. Some send it upwards, downwards, eastwards, or into the earth, as if direction itself can guide the tooth home. And the modern fairy comes, turning all of that into a little domestic exchange. That may be why the custom survives so easily. It solves more than one problem at once. It reassures the child that the body is not betraying them. It gives the parent a role in a change that they can't control. It turns blood, looseness and loss into theatre. It makes the night helpful. It makes the missing tooth valuable. It makes growing up feel watched over. The fairy is not the opposite of the old rituals. She is their gentler descendant. The same bargain remains beneath the pillow. Give up the small white bone, and something will protect the child through the change. Somewhere tonight, a child will leave a tooth under a pillow and try to stay awake. They may imagine wings, or a mouse, or nothing at all. Only the mystery of morning and the small proof that something came while they slept. The room will feel ordinary. A bed, a lamp, a glass of water, a door left slightly open. But the ritual is older than the room around it. Long before the fairy was named, adults were already making bargains with the dark. They burned teeth, buried them, hid them, threw them to roofs and sunrise, fed them to animals, or kept them close until the danger had passed. Not because teeth were cute, because teeth were powerful. They guarded the mouth, they marked age. They cut, bit, survived, and remained when softer things were gone. When one fell from a child, it carried the old fear that the body was open, that something precious had loosened, and that what left the child might still belong to them. So the world invented ceremonies small enough for children. A throw to the roof, a whisper to the sun, a gift to the mouse. Perhaps the Tooth Fairy works because she hides the terror without destroying the meaning. She lets the child believe the loss has been noticed, valued and answered. The tooth is gone, But something came in return. Not just money, not really. A promise that the body can change and still be safe. That the dark can take something without becoming an enemy. That growing up, with all its small losses, can be survived one ritual at a time. By morning the tooth has vanished, the child smiles into the mirror and sees the gap. The trade is complete. Bone for protection. Loss for luck. A small white offering taken in the night, so the child can wake without fear. You have been listening to Noir Frequency. If this story found you, there are a few small ways to help the signal travel further. Like the episode, share it with someone who remembers checking under the pillow in the morning, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. If you want early access to new episodes, Patreon exclusive redacted files, and the chance to help choose which shortlisted episodes I prioritise next, you can follow Noir Frequency on Patreon at patreon.com/noirfrequency. And if you want to carry the signal out into the world, visit noirfrequency.com for the store. Thank you for being here. Until next time, keep listening.